to call to order the Bucksport Town Council meeting for Thursday, December 8th, 2016. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Joseph York.
Here.
Paul Rad.
Here.
David Key.
Here.
David King.
Here.
Peter Stewart.
Here.
Paul Godwin.
Here.
Robert Carmichael.
Here.
Item 3 is presentation of any town council recognitions. I don't believe we have any tonight. Go on to item 4. Item 4 is consider minutes of previous meetings. None. Item 5, receive and review correspondence and documents. At this time, I'd like to open the floor up to Mr. McGlynn from AIM to discuss the AIM development project at Bucksport. Jeff?
Good evening, Jeff McGlynn, AIM Development. I just have a few slides as an update, similar format as to what I've done before. And at the end, I have a couple of very recent aerial photos from the week of Thanksgiving that I think you'll find pretty, or I hope you find pretty interesting. So the items, demolition update, power plant update, environmental site review, bit of a summary on some of the dam maintenance work that we finished this fall, and then just an update on redevelopment. So in terms of demolition, Independence is again the contractor that we have hired. We're very happy with our contractor that's performing the work now. The first phase, the original scope of work, is about 90% finished. We just have really a little bit of cleanup, one building to do in that scope yet, and then load and ship the remaining metal from that phase. The second demolition area we're calling Phase 2. I have a map there on the next slide, but obviously the SLOTA and the demolition permit were updated for that Phase 2 area. Here just in the last couple of weeks we've started the prep work for Phase 2 demolition. The contractor crew size is going to stay about the same here as to what it's been the last 5 or 6 months, 17 people, a mix of labor and operators. Phase 1 plus Phase 2 target completion date in total. Everything cleaned up, down, buildings down to slab on grade, and C&D gone, metal gone, May of 2017. Again, progress, we're happy with the pace, we're happy with the contractor. It's going very well in terms of how we view it. And you'll see, again, I'll save the aerials for the end, but you'll get a good perspective from a drone aerial to see the progress. The site map for what we're calling Phase 2 is the next slide here. And it's a bit tough to orientate yourself on a small slide like this, but the railroad frontage and roadway is out here, and the other landmark on here are two-story office building. So everything that's yellow is what we're calling Phase 2, and it's all of the red brick building areas around the two-story office building. So in the coming days, you'll see, or be able to see, the work is going to start from this direction, headed toward the river. Power plant, really not much has changed there. We're still 100% in a merchant market, so we bid into the grid market each day. And quite honestly, we have been running very little, but given the electricity rates, gas prices, and the capacity funds, the way the pricing in the market is, it's not worth putting run hours on our equipment. So we just continue to bid, and most likely the next time there will be multiple run days will be summertime. So most of the winter will be very few run hours on the power plant.
Is there plans to keep any heat in the buildings at all this winter?
Yeah, so we're heating all the turbine buildings. We're not heating the biomass boiler. building. So we have everything. This fall has been quite a process of draining lines, making sure we have it freeze protected and drained such that we could in the future run biomass. This is a bit dated but true. It just happened here in the summer in early fall, but from an environmental standpoint, Campbell Environmental completed the Phase 1, and that complete Phase 1 was submitted to DEP as well as other state officials, and right now there's no further environmental investigations planned. This fall we did a fair bit of dam maintenance. In general, all three of the dams are in good structural condition. Generally, right now the water levels are a little bit high for this time of year, but we're within range. But there's a lot of water flowing, so we want to get it down a little bit before some of this cold weather comes. But specifically, some of the maintenance things that we did at the Toddy Pond Dam, we did some concrete patching work, both underwater at the upstream side of the dam, and then both downstream sidewalls were patched, reinforcing installed and concrete patching. At the Alamoosic, we did all on the downstream side of the dam, but we did concrete and grout installation at the waterway, and then also at the fish ladder support. There was just a little bit of washing out, I'll say, starting at the downstream side, so we installed grout bags and concrete and riprap and stone over the top. So a real nice repair there. Should be a long-term solution. And Silver Lake Dam, there's really no outstanding maintenance there to do this summer. We just did some cleanup up there and vegetation control. From a site redevelopment standpoint, we're continuing to review a lot of options, field a lot of phone calls, some through the office here. Rich has been involved in some, and some just direct phone calls right into our office or our site. We're continuing to work with Maine Maritime. I think the best way to summarize what they're doing from my perspective is continuing to update their business pro forma and what really they'd like to have for a site plan. We recently met with Sprague just to review what their property consisted of adjacent to us. I don't think there wasn't really any real reason to see what was happening there other than introductions, and they wanted to see our site, and we wanted to understand what they had there for a site. We've given many tours, had many discussions, many groups ranging from power projects, small manufacturers, warehousing, and there's really no firm redevelopment plans, but we continue to have a lot of activity and a lot of communications. And I've said this before, but there still seems to be a transportation fit for that site. The rail, truck, barge options definitely keep surfacing. Any questions? And I'll get to the aerial views. I think I will, Rich.
Are there any questions from the public on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The biomass that you mentioned, you're not going to get rid of the biomass system,
We are not.
and you're thinking that you're going to use that in the future?
So what we know right now is it's not profitable to make electricity using the biomass boiler and related equipment. but we're not entirely sure that it won't be in the future. So we're keeping the equipment able to be restarted.
Interesting.
Any questions from the council?
The May date still looks really barring anything. weather and all of
Hopefully
that
winter
stuff.
remains as it has up to this, and not necessarily what it looks like next week. But yeah, May is a pretty comfortable date.
Well, what do you think it's gonna take to get the biomass going?
Well, electricity rates would have to go up, natural gas up, biomass down substantially. A good mix of those three.
Not looking at that.
We don't think so, but we own it. It's in good working condition today, so we don't plan to remove it.
When you say you're going to heat the turbine buildings, is the plan to do that with one of the smaller boilers using natural gas, like number 5?
No, we installed some small natural gas unit heaters,
Okay.
I'd call them, in all of those buildings.
Mr. Mayor, you mentioned there are no further environmental investigations planned. How about when you're completely finished? Is there somebody who's going to go back in there with an eye toward any environmental needs that need to continue to be met at the end of it?
Yeah, so we think next environmental steps would be at a time when a redevelopment or a group wanting to have a particular use in a particular area, if it's not the entire site, that's most likely when some phase 2 or additional environmental review would be done.
Well, obviously behooves you to, and I feel that you are, behooves you to find a buyer for this, or buyers, as the case may be. Would you be responsible, do you know at this point whether you'd be responsible for some of the cost of that, or in an effort to get it sold? Is that how it's going to work?
Yeah, I would see that as being part of the negotiation leading up to a sale or a partial sale.
The
Yes.
fact that an environmental phase 1 has been completed on this project gives a potential buyer and protection for AIM and a potential buyer some knowledge, but the hold-off on environmental phase 2 is because the nature of remediation depends on the type of development that may be proposed. There may be development proposed that, because you're not going to take up concrete slabs and not going to do anything that disturbs anything, doesn't require remediation. So the next phase will be depending on the type of location to go in a situation and what might go there. If something is to be disturbed, then the phase 2 would kick in. But the fact that phase 1 has been done and these areas identified is a protection for AIM, the community, and the buyer. So.
You had mentioned when you came about a year ago that you were thinking of the possibility of moving the fuel delivery system closer to the power plant. Is that still an option for you to free up more of that? I mean, you can see all those conveyors take up an awful lot of the property. Or would that be contingent on whether you're actually going to run the biomass plant again or not?
Yeah, that's how we would view it now. I mean, the things like the truck dump and the chip storage building area could pretty easily be, down here somewhere.
Right, yeah.
Just given the current market, we agree it won't run this winter the way the market looks. So we have no plans to move it. But if it came to that point where it was going to be a long-term run, then it would make sense to make the footprint a little smaller.
So what part's coming down in phase 2, Jeff? All of it?
Everything in blue.
Yeah, so Peter, this picture wasn't set up to show you where phase 2
I didn't think so.
is,
Yeah.
and it's tough to see, but basically, so this is the biomass boiler, and the area of buildings that's in phase 2 is directly behind it, over toward the office building, out toward the road.
Okay.
Okay?
All the blue buildings on the water over in the,
This is what's very much in a running, that's our gas turbine system. That's what we bid into the market every day, and that's a key. That's the power plant.
yep, yep.
Is the
So-
guard shack staying?
Sorry?
The guard shack out front, is that staying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And all those conveyors that are on the upper hand of the picture feed that plant, so those are all, that's what you were talking about, that whole system of conveyors.
Yeah,
and
so
stuff.
there's a truck dump out here that the chips unloaded, and this is various feed conveyors and storage buildings of chips, all ultimately headed by conveyor to the biomass.
And are all the stacks staying?
They are for now. So this stack is for one of the smaller gas boilers that is directly adjacent to the biomass boiler, so it makes sense for now to stay. This is the biomass, and this is our gas turbine stack. So long answer, but yes, all 3 stacks are staying.
And the 2 tanks up on the water side, what are those?
So this one right here is not currently used. It's for fuel oil, and the gas turbine could burn fuel oil, so we plan to leave it in place, and it's physically connected via piping, as well as the second tank there is a water tank, demineralized water. It's used for cooling of the air when we run the gas turbine, as well as combustion when we run oil.
And are those piped underground, are they, or on top of the ground?
Underground.
Underground?
Yeah. And then there's one more tank. It was also for fuel oil at one time. It's currently not being used, but it's in good condition, so we would plan to leave it.
Okay.
How about the coal silos?
We're going to leave them for now. They don't serve a purpose really, even in the biomass. It's a bit of a tough demolition to take just those 2 silos and not take the biomass conveying system, so we're not going to demolish
Could
them.
they be used for like grain storage or something like that? If for some reason somebody wanted to start shipping grain out of Bucksport, or
Yeah, they're in good condition. They're usable.
I mean, they used to hold 300 or 400 tons each.
Mhm.
I think the reason the mayor may be asking that is because, as we all know, getting product from there shipped to Europe is a lot faster than some of the routes that they use today.
Mhm.
So that's a factor, I think.
Mhm.
And the Central Maine Power switchyard, which is the gray area,
Mhm.
is staying, right?
Yeah, it's staying. So Central Maine Power owns half of the land area and equipment, and the other half essentially we own, and is where our interconnection point is, in that same switchyard.
I believe also the step-down transformer to supply the town of Bucksport is in that
It is.
switchyard also. Yeah.
It is.
So just for real quick, what's left for phase 1? You said about 90% was done.
Yeah, so the one building that's in phase 1 is out near the railroad tracks. It has a newer piece of equipment, drum debarker, log debarker, and we are trying to sell it ahead of demolition. So that's the single most biggest structure that's left to demolish. There's still a little bit of work up on the wastewater treatment plant tanks that was in phase 1. So they're working on it. It's going well. It's just time-consuming breaking a lot of concrete walls.
Thanks.
And then, really, so why didn't I say a little closer to 100%? All of these concrete piles have to yet be cleaned and crushed. That's in the scope of phase 1 yet. But what I knew that you'd find impressive, or we definitely like this picture. It really starts to show the amount of land area, buildable, clean concrete slab right on the river. And again, this is a picture taken the week of Thanksgiving, so it's very real. It's starting to really take shape and look nice.
Are the carpenter shop and the chemical storage facility, which is the blue buildings nearest Route 15, are they coming down in Phase 2?
The carpenter shop building, so the blue building would remain. That's where we relocated some of the spare parts and stores items. The additive stores, the silver building, I forget what you called it, something a
Chemical
little...
storage building.
Chemical storage building. It's included in Phase 2. We're going to just make it near the end because it's covered, a nice usable building, a loading dock. So it will go away, but not until the very end.
Yes, sir.
Jeff, have you transported any waste materials to the landfill site yet? From the mill demolition?
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes. We've hauled, well, all of the roofing material, all of the construction and demolition debris that's been generated from Phase 1 has all gone to the landfill.
Any questions from the public? From the council? Anything else, Jeff?
No?
Well, thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go back to item 5, receive and review correspondence and documents. The first one being Oliver Associates meeting minutes from 11/9/2016. Susan?
That is our last, the last meeting to review the monthly bill for the work being done on the treatment plan, and it goes over what's been done, what's anticipated to be done in the next month, and then the requisitions that were there to be paid. We have our next meeting next Wednesday at 11 o'clock.
Okay, item B, Maine Municipal Association membership information for 2016.
We received information from MMA, which is, they call it the value of member. They gave what they gave us in terms of service and dividends during 2016, and dividends paid for workers' compensation reduction was $4,163. We received $2,982 in safety grants and scholarships that were applied for by police and fire departments. The LEADER program that I've talked to you about, the town participating in, which is a safety-related program, gives us a credit on our insurance annually for workers' comp of $5,510, and then loss control, meaning the loss control visited our facilities and did inspections and all those kind of things for, as well as used online safety training courses for a value of $2,432 for a net benefit to the community of $15,087.
That isn't a payment, it's just a reduction.
Some is payments, the dividends are payments, the safety grants and scholarships are payments, and the reduction in insurance cost is in effect an avoided cost, so that's a real. Loss control, where they're coming and visiting, is the only thing that probably doesn't have a direct dollar where
the
we've
dividends
either not paid it.
Are the dividends linked at all to experience rating, or are they just?
They're related to our experience rating, and our workers' comp modification factor is 0.66, which is, 1 is you're paying 100%, but for many entities it's over 1 because you're experienced. But 0.66 means we're paying only 2/3 as much as the majority as of the cost of that because our experience rating is so good. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could take a
Yes,
step
sir.
back just a moment to Oliver Associates. There have been very few change orders, haven't there?
Very few. We've had one completed change order that incorporated a number of things. It was for $93,000. That was the total, and where some of the pieces of the new project are starting to be incorporated, are starting to run so that they can take out pieces of the existing. And we're still on track to be functional by July, so I am very encouraged that we may have sufficient funds left within this project to do the majority of the force main behind
Great.
Hannaford.
Any questions from the public? Okay, we're going to go on to item C, Police Department call to Verona on November 5th, 2016.
As we've explained before, these calls are required to be provided to the council as part of our agreement. And this one was a request for backup from Hancock County Sheriff's Department, which we did because their nearest deputy was too far away to do it. But the information in regard to the call is contained in the packet.
Actually, these have become quite frequent over the last month or two.
We've had one or so every council meeting, yeah, sometimes two.
But there's no type of a repayment to us for this protection. It's just a mutual.
It's mutual aid.
Okay. Okay, item D, weekly construction summary for November 18th and November 23rd.
And these are the weekly reports that we receive from our engineers on the treatment plant project, which identify on an ongoing week-to-week basis what's been done and what's anticipated for the next weeks, and that's what these are for those. And the weather staying reasonably good helps that out.
Okay, we'll go on to item 6, new ordinances to be considered and introduced. First one being a proposal for a moratorium on retail marijuana establishments and marijuana social clubs. Refer to the ordinance committee. Go ahead.
The reason that this is in your packet is that the referendum, the marijuana referendum, appears to have passed. It's in a recount, but I personally don't think that they're going to find 4,000 votes to undo it. And it goes to the legislature for tinkering, but the law as adopted allows communities something that it doesn't in many things, which is the right to not allow this use in a community. Medical marijuana was not the case. It could be regulated but could not be prohibited from the location somewhere in the community of this. And this has the ability for the town to say no. And I'm not suggesting the town say yes or no, but I am suggesting that the ordinance committee and the town need to have a conversation about whether or not this use is one that the people of the community and the council want to see in Bucksport, and in order to allow time for that conversation and either development of ordinance language or not to occur, that you would need to have a moratorium, or else anything that was put in as an application would be grandfathered, and that would not, you would not be able to regulate it beyond that. So there's a draft here. It's a draft similar to those that have been in many communities at this time and for the same purpose. And all I'm asking for it to be is referred to the ordinance committee to begin a discussion of whether you even want to do a moratorium or you don't.
Okay, this is not a resolve, it's okay.
No, this is just a referral.
How would the council like to proceed?
I'd make a motion, refer to the ordinance committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve, to send it to the ordinance committee. Anything from the public on this?
Just a question. She said that the vote actually left us, or left the town with the right to refuse the use of marijuana.
No, not the use, the location of the facility.
In other words, you can regulate what they can, where they can use it, and how they can distribute it in the town.
You can regulate whether or not you allow a social club or a store that sells it in it. You cannot regulate if somebody in town has purchased it someplace else and uses it here. You can't regulate
Just
that.
the way you worded it when you said it, it sounded like you were
I
saying
apologize.
that
It's,
that the town council could refuse to allow it in the town.
they can
That's
refuse,
the way you worded it.
they can refuse to allow a business to locate here that is a
Yes, right. I
recreational
understand that.
thing, but not, no, I apologize. That, it's the location of the facility, not the use of the substance that they
Yeah, I
can
just wanted to
regulate.
clarify that.
Okay.
Anything further from the public, from the council?
I have one question. I'm against it, period, but, so we're asking to do a moratorium to come up with,
Language
Okay.
to
Personally,
decide how.
and this is me, and this sort of reminds me of the fireworks law, but that should go up to vote, whether we make a ordinance about it. That's my opinion.
Well, in one respect, we already did vote on November 8th, and it turned out that by 61 votes, it was 1329 to 1268 no. In the,
No, I want an official vote. I'm saying official.
well, this can't get any more official than what we voted on November 8th, but anyway, the town at that time said no.
No, I'm fine with that. I'm not gonna.
Well, the moratorium is only 6 months to decide if you want to do anything. And you can decide, we're going to not do anything and let, see what comes, or you can create regulations, but creating regulations is a process, that's a public process as well, so.
I'm suggesting that perhaps the ordinance committee meet fairly soon, for just the reason you expressed, not wait till the next meeting necessarily. Because if somebody files an application, that would change the.
Well, the law doesn't take effect for 30 days until after the vote is over. Then the legislature can fiddle and diddle to their heart's content.
But what if we did not have a moratorium? Couldn't somebody file an application?
After the laws in
I see,
place.
so, but that would be 30 days after the legislature goes out.
No, 30 days, the law becomes, in a citizen petition, the law goes into effect 30 days after the vote is certified by the governor.
I see.
And then the legislature can do whatever they want to with it. But it becomes law. It doesn't, the way it is, ugly as it looks. Whether they implement it is another thing, but it becomes law 30 days after the governor certifies the vote. As is. And then the legislature does stuff to it. And the legislature's in session, they can do stuff right away to it once it's certified, but it's...
I'm just saying, I don't think we have to move on something next week, but yes, in a timely manner.
I think that's what the moratorium is. It just
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of freezes everything.
Yeah, I was just talking about the moratorium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that just gives you some breathing space, because you don't know what it's going to look like when the legislature gets done with it either. Which is probably more concerning than the
And,
vote.
and if the moratorium does pass, is there a set time frame to that?
It's 180 days, 6 months.
But you had, was that draft just, when it said November 1st, was that just a number to put
That's
in there
because it takes it back so that
prior to the vote?
you're not, it incorporates anything from then on. That's
Okay, we have a motion and a second to send this to the ordinance committee. I ask for input from the public. Anything further from the council?
I just had one more thing to go with Paul Garvin. With the understanding that the people voted to legalize the marijuana in Maine. Bucksport voted the way that
No.
voted no. Yeah. What I think Paul might be asking is a way to bring it up that, as you say, buildings and facilities in the town, or is that just the council's job to do it on behalf of the?
If the council wanted to do a referendum question on whether or not the residents of Bucksport wanted this
Located.
located in Bucksport, they would be replicating the vote that you just took. I mean, that's what you just voted on, was whether or not.
Well, a lot of people
The
didn't
state.
understand it. A lot of people, I don't think even the government understands what.
I mean,
was
could you
actually-
do another one saying, now that this is what the state's come up with, now do you want to do this?
Yeah.
You can do a referendum question on that if you
Yeah.
choose to. That would be a next November kind of vote.
Sure.
So whatever was going to happen would have probably happened by
Understandable.
then.
And it's true that the town can have a more strict regulation than the state as well. So is that with codes and
What the town can do is in regard to, and it did it with medical, is in medical marijuana, it said in certain areas of the community, we consider that this use is appropriate, this land use,
sure.
constructing buildings. In this law, unlike most state laws, it gives the community the right to say, we don't want this kind of establishments in the community operating. And so communities are wrestling with whether to cite it appropriately, like you do with medical marijuana, or to say, no, the town doesn't want social clubs or
That's what
that
they
kind
call
of-
home rule or something.
that's, well, home rule charter, whatever, we've got a charter that allows you those same kind of provisions. So, but ordinance committee is who sort of starts the discussion about what you want to do, if anything, and maybe the answer is you don't want to do anything. I mean, that's doing nothing is always an option. And so if you say this is passed and that's it, we just won't do anything and see what happens, that's your choice. You had that choice with fireworks. You have, there's some things that you can decide to do something or nothing.
Can you treat this similar to like alcohol? I mean, there's some towns in the state of Maine that are dry.
No, you can't say people can't use it. That's not what was voted on. What was voted on was allowing retail and social clubs that sell marijuana to be located in Maine. The town can't regulate if people can smoke marijuana or have
It's
marijuana
really
or
about
any.
land use,
It's a
not
land
people.
use ordinance.
Well, and that's, but I think what the mayor means is those aren't those towns, those dry towns, but I think there's still a couple on the other side of the river. They just don't sell it in the
That's
town.
correct. You
And
can
that's what-
drink it, but they don't
Right.
sell it.
Right, I do have one question for the chief. How many grows do we have in town? A few. Right. So we presently, right now, have people growing marijuana in town legally. I mean, that's my thing, is legally growing marijuana, we have in Brewer.
Well,
It amazes me. It amazes me we're even talking about this. I agree we need to have a moratorium and talk about it, but right now, we presently have people growing marijuana and people don't even know it.
Well, this is not about growing it. This is about retail establishments selling it and recreational clubs, which
Right,
are
recreational, right.
the club. The chief might.
If I may, you're not going to be able to stop people from using marijuana after they do the recount. That's not what is at stake here. What she's asking is that, does this town want to allow someone to put up a smoke shop at the abandoned flower shop on Main Street in Bucksport? When the medical marijuana come out, there was land use ordinances, correct me if I'm wrong, as to where they could grow. We do have a few people that have contacted me that are into that business that are growing. But they know they can't do it on Main Street in Bucksport. They have to be in the outskirts because that's what the land use says. So what you're really looking at is a moratorium to look at if you want to put regulations on where social clubs can be. It'd be no different than Ramona's that sells alcohol. You could have a bar on Main Street that's a marijuana bar. So that's really what you're looking at. You're going to stop the use. It's going to be like alcohol. People can use it. But you can look at where you want them to set up clubs, where you want them to set up sales for this product. And that's what you're really looking at.
All right, we're ready for a vote to send it to the ordinance committee. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item B, shall an ordinance be introduced entitled Repeal and Replacement of Chapter 6, Business Licensing and Regulations, such ordinance being for the purpose of updating business licenses, permits, regulations, and relocating cable television regulations to Appendix K, an unused section of the Bucksport Town Code. That was a mouthful.
It should say Appendix E, not Appendix K, correct? Okay. And the draft that's in the packet that would be referred would have the renewal licenses changed, that all of those that do not have a mandatory fee would be changed to $5 per the recommendation of the ordinance committee instead of 20 or 10 or whatever they are. It's a straight $5 renewal fee for licenses. There was discussion about having that be zero. Legal advice told us that was discriminatory. There needed to be, if there was a fee for a new license, there needed to be some sort of a fee for a renewal, and the committee discussed extensively what that fee might be and settled on $5. So the version that would go out would be introduced for public hearing would have a renewal license fee of $5 for all licenses that didn't have a mandatory fee, and it would be that the regulations for cable TV would be relocated to Appendix E, not K.
That's correct.
And this is to introduce it, and then there'll be a public hearing.
There will be a public hearing at the whatever council meeting you said.
How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to, not approve, but introduce.
Second with the
We
changes.
have a motion and a second to introduce the ordinance, repeal and replace Chapter 6 of the Business Licensing and Regulations, Appendix E. Anything from the public on this? There'll be an option anyway when public hearing. Further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item 7, discussion items, manager's clarification and direction, or council discussion or input on issues. First one being mileage rate for 2017, request to use IRS designated rate. Susan?
When we did the budget this year, we talked about mileage reimbursement and what the town utilized for that, which to the best of my knowledge I can't find a basis for other than the fact that it's a number. It's 44 cents. And the discussion was that rather than have something that stayed static, didn't move, and didn't truly reflect what the cost of mileage was for people using their vehicles, that we go to the IRS standard, which is set annually, and which would then change annually to reflect what reality was in terms of gas prices, etc. And since this was something we discussed in the budget, we have not yet done this, I'm asking for the council to consider implementing this beginning in 2017, when the next rate will be set as of January, to set the mileage rate as equivalent to the IRS mileage business rate on an annual basis.
What is that going to be in January? Or is that
It has not yet.
Oh.
It has not yet been released. This year, it's 54 cents.
Yeah. And it makes it, I mean, it's much cleaner for the employee because they can't write off any mileage if it's the IRS rate, but if it's 44 cents, then they can write the difference off. You know, it's just a kind of a messy thing, so I think it's a good.
I think what you find, the 44 cents, that's the state rate.
Yeah.
And that's probably where that number came from, instead of the federal IRS rate. The state rate's always been less, and I know it's 44 cents, or it was.
So we're saying, if we vote on this, we're saying to always set it at the IRS
That as
rate.
of January, every year, it will automatically change to whatever the new rate is, and that, it's usually out by this time in December, but it's not. As of a couple days ago, it still hadn't.
It just went down a little while ago.
It went down from 57.5 in 2015 to 54 in 2016, and that reflects the fuel costs dropping.
Can you do that if the state rate is different than the IRS, which it obviously is?
The state rate is for collective bargaining.
Mhm.
That's when, through the contracts that they have with state employees, unions and stuff, that's the number that they came up with if you use your own vehicle for. So that's why it's a different thing, that they collectively bargained that.
All right, how would the council like to proceed?
Well, there's a resolve down further if you
Okay.
decide. This
All
is
right.
just where I explained to you
All
what
right.
the...
Item B, Waterfront Committee update for 2008.
Yep, that would be me, and our committee, we met tonight, and just quickly going back to July, August, the ad hoc group was formed for the ad hoc, for the Waterfront Committee. There were 5 recommendations that came out of that. The harbor master, the marina manager, the public works and parks and recreation department heads and managers were asked to provide financial information and descriptions of their jobs, and that was all taken into account, and all of that was presented over to the town manager, who has come up with a plan that includes a structure for a budget and a move towards a future organization, consolidation of work, and so forth. So with all that as background, I'll let the town manager just finish up with her numbers, please.
Okay.
Got 'em?
Something. I do. Something. Okay, what I did was I went through our operational budget and our marina budget to look at what the town was currently expending for the operation of the town docks, walkway, public bathrooms, and the Main Street plantings. Basically everything from Main Street to the water. What were we spending to take care of that? And in terms of payroll expenses, the Recreation Department, the Marina, and Public Works all had portions in their budgets that related to personnel expenditures. And then the Recreation, Town Dock, Marina, and Public Works Department all had expenses in their budgets related to the non-personnel expenses, supplies, materials, crane rentals, et cetera, et cetera. So I went through and pulled all of those out, and the general fund contributed or contributes annually approximately $66,000, $65,899.68 to be exact, for personnel and expenses related to maintenance and supplies, etc., for those operations. The marina budget total is $91,000, with personnel, with non-personnel expenses being a little over $50,000. But the total budget, the total between those two is $156,899.68, $91,000 of which is entirely from the marina revenue. So but as you've seen there, it's in 4 different places with 4 different department heads trying to jockey for position on what gets done and when it gets done and who's responsible. And my proposal for the future organization is to not create another department for it, but to, currently our economic development director is doing a great deal of work with the waterfront and organization of things due to that. So my proposal is to seat waterfront under economic development with the responsibilities for marina, town docks, harbor master, walkway, public bathrooms, and the Main Street plantings, and that the staffing of this would include the 4 seasonal positions, and that's May to October, that we currently use. 2 of those are seasonal, are 40 hours a week seasonally, and 2 of them are part-time during those seasonal times. And then 1 position that is full-time from May to October and part-time the remainder of the year for management of items related to the marina, and it would have economic development, the marina full-time in the summer position, and then below that the maintenance personnel who are doing all of that. And that the funding of this would be the combination of the tax appropriations extracted from the other budgets, so those budgets would reduce by the amount of monies that's currently being expended on those, and the remainder of it to be funded from the marina appropriations, so that the impact to the budget was flat in terms of not causing any increase or any additional monies to be required from taxes for the management of the waterfront. And there may be efficiencies that may be realized when this is put into practice, because all of the maintenance people will be under 1 person instead of under 2 different ones, and that kind of thing. And my proposal is to implement this for the 17-18 fiscal year, but to start now. But that's what the waterfront committee talked about tonight. This will have to be on a future agenda for the council, but that's what they talked about.
Okay.
But it does meet the intent of the ad hoc group to the letter of the 5 recommendations. So.
Thank you. And we'll have more updates on this before it
Oh yeah,
becomes-
it'll be on an agenda for you to
Okay.
decide what you want to do with it.
All right. I have a question. I need, how much is the waterfront, the slots for the boats?
The marina?
What I'm trying to ask is, how much money are we making, or how much is it costing us to keep the walkway and the waterfront going?
The marina budget, and it's budgeted as a wash, but we're actually making more. The marina budget is $91,000. In the 3 years since the town has owned that marina, the net gain in that enterprise account is a little over $30,000 to the good.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, the town budgets and appropriates from taxation approximately $66,000 to maintain the walkway, the town docks, and all those things that go along with that, from watering and doing plants on Main Street to doing the full-time maintenance on the walkway, to paying the electric bill for the docks and the water bill and those kind of things. That's all tax money. The marina where the boat slips are, that's the $91,000 in revenue that's generated from that site.
When we purchased the marina, it was the town council understanding that that would be a standalone entity and no tax dollars would go into operating that facility. And basically, this is a way of merging that into the waterfront. But also, it's kind of its own revenue stream that will come back into that cost structure so that there will still be no tax revenues going to operating the marina. I think that's what we're,
That's, the goal is that's the way when you took over the marina, it's my
That's what I was
understanding.
asking. Is the marina paying for our walkway?
No,
Okay,
the marina pays for the marina.
okay.
The walkway and the docks, the town docks,
Mhm.
those are tax-supported entities.
Okay.
but taxpayers aren't paying for the marina either. There's
I
no,
thought this was a good purchase.
But there's-
I think, I mean, down the road, I don't think that necessarily needs to be our philosophy. I mean, that marina is a draw to the town, and so I don't think we should be anchored in maybe the original thought process down. I'm not saying we change it now, but I think we need to keep looking at that as a jewel, like it's so many people that come into town say, it's the marina, the walkway, all of that, so.
I think the understanding was when the town decided to purchase it, we'd never owned a marina before, and we didn't know whether it was going to make money or not make money, and I think we all felt that if we're going to lose money, we're going to sell it. It's obvious now that we're going to make money, and it's, like you say, a draw to our community, so it's time to look at it in a different aspect.
Find ways to enhance it. I mean, it may be a little bit of a loss leader in some ways, the whole thing might be, but it's, I think.
Well, looking at that component of it as having that revenue stream and doing everything can, because what that can offer to allow expansion is that the extra amount of money that is creating more than is needed to do strict marina can be put into waterfront reserve for the improvements of the overall waterfront, which drives down what the taxation need would be, but continues to support the area it came from. And that's part of the discussion tonight as well.
Any other further questions? Yes, sir.
No, I'd just like to say that Mr. Carmichael's correct in drawing people to town. We patrol that area all summer. We have the bike officer down there, and I've been down there. There are a lot of people down in that area that come here during the week, on the weekends and stuff, that are not from this area, and they choose to come down here because of the area. You've had people down there that are retired FBI agents, retired police officers from other states. So there are a lot of people looking at that area and passing the word. There's a lot of people showing up in that area in the summer. We don't advertise that, but we see it because we're down there and talk to them in the summer, so people are coming down to that area.
Well, it's because of part of it, because of the offshoot and advantages to the town. I mean, you don't have to look any further, as was mentioned in the committee meeting before this meeting, that as to, the advantage, you look at Belfast, for example. I always like to use Belfast as an example of things, because you have to go off the road, just like in Bucksport, trying to get people to turn the right direction off the bridge to get to Belfast. And that's been a rip-roaring success over there. So at some point, and all the slips were sold before the marina even closed this past year. I'm not sold, I mean, were rented for the next year. Didn't sell anything. Were rented for the next year before the marina closed this year. So it's pretty obvious that if we had even more slips out there, that there's a market for it. And the people, we had a meeting here one time, a lot of the boat owners came in, and they were talking about storage of boats someplace, which could be a moneymaker for the town also, connected to the marina or something. So it is the jewel. It should be treated as a jewel, and we may have to spend a little money on it to make even more money. So I think expansion, investigation in the future would be a very good thing by this council.
I mean, Bangor is recognizing where they've been falling short in their waterfront. They're going to be adding some slips up there, which could impact us. So the more we can stay ahead of that, the better.
Any other comments from the council or the public? Yes, sir.
You might want to come up here, Mr. Morrison, where you can be heard by the viewing public also.
Yeah, I'm fine right here.
I would suggest that you come up here so the people out in the audience can hear you.
Is taken up with running this? How much of his time is actually involved in that?
I can answer that, that's okay.
You may have to repeat the question since Mr. Morrison.
So the question was how much of my time would be used to oversee the marina. Currently, right the way it ran now, when I was also coordinating the Heart and Soul, I oversaw parts of the marina because we have to accommodate for cruise ships. And the current plan is I had to go to the harbor master, I had to go to the marina manager, I had to check all these different areas while they were also calling me at the same time. So there were 3 different people who had all information, and the cards weren't all always being shared equally. So if we have one destination spot with one person relaying the information, it will make my job easier and make the time that everyone else spends in it a lot better and a lot more affordable for the citizens of the town.
Thank you. Anything further from the council? If not, we're going to go on to item C, Ordinance Committee update. Peter?
Yeah, we had a meeting tonight about a noise ordinance from a landowner dispute. Homeowner was questioning what we could do about a noise ordinance from somebody running a generator on an undeveloped piece of property. We checked with MMA and checked some different ordinances, and the resolution is going to be that we're going to have our CEO go out and see if the person has been there in violation of the land use timeline. Is pretty much where we're at. The MMA lawyer said that we don't want to set specific ordinances piecemeal for individual things. It's the wrong way to do business, and I think that's what we all agreed right from the start. So we've got a solution to look at, and we're going to continue to monitor noise levels and different things as they come up, but we're not going to individualize ordinances piecemeal. It's not the way to do business. So the issue has been addressed from that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Item D, Great Pond Mountain Conservative Trust, Mile Lanes Trail Project request.
You want me to come up?
Certainly.
So I'm Jennifer Riefler, and I'm from Great Pond Mountain Conservation Trust. This is Jocelyn Tozier, who is one of our volunteers that's been working on this project. She's a 9th grader at Bucksport High School. And so I imagine you have the permit request in front of you. And so just the background is that last year the trust met with interested teachers from anywhere in the Bucksport system to see how the trust could help support outdoor and science education and any other projects in Bucksport schools. And the 4th grade teachers were very interested in getting help making a footpath around this vernal pool that's off the Miles Lane trails. They want to use the vernal pool as a centerpiece of their 4th grade science curriculum. And so Jocelyn and I went out there and we flagged a footpath around the pool. And as I was looking at it, I realized that even with that footpath, what they were after wasn't going to be fulfilled. The students still would not have good access to collecting samples and making observations, even from the footpath. So I had proposed putting a boardwalk out into the pool with a small platform at the end. I talked to Mike Gross at the high school, and his advanced woodworking class would like to make the pieces of the platform. And since I wrote this permit, I've made a detailed materials list and got an estimate from Home Depot for just under $3,000. And then it would be another $500 for some cedar planking for the footpath. So we were told, first I thought we were going to the planning board, then we were told to come here because of potential maintenance issues with this proposal.
Do you know how deep the pool is?
Well, I haven't measured it when it's full of water, but looking at it when it's not full of water, I'd say at most 4 feet. That would be maximum height.
You don't want any kids swimming in there.
No, but they're already going and using it, as part. It's 10-minute walk from the Miles Lane School. I even went with DeBray Bishop from down East Audubon, and she did a whole lesson out there. So the kids are already around us. We were thinking a better way for the kids to access this.
The question is whether the council wants to approve allowing this addition to your Miles Lane trails area.
Who's paying for it?
Well, I've been writing grants. I haven't got anything yet in that process. We are actually, the Land Trust, in conjunction with Down East Audubon, we are about to hire an education coordinator, 10 hours a week for each organization, whose purpose is to specifically work with our local schools. So not only will there be me and my volunteers, there'll be an education coordinator overseeing this operation.
This is for the community and the kids.
Yeah.
No brainer.
Yeah.
Again,
But it's
I
got
worry a
maintenance
little bit
costs.
about the liability. I mean, if you're building a platform out over water that is 4 feet deep, I mean, you could have some young kid, you know, we're talking a toddler, walk off the end of it. And is the town liable, or do you go on this at your own risk, takes the liability away from us?
Right now, if someone went out on that and went into that pool, the toddler that you talked about went into it, our liabilities, it's not,
There's not an improved access trail to get to it. It's not part of the trail system. We're going to now make it part of the trail system, correct? That's,
Well, it is, because the current entrance to the pool is this gravel embankment that I actually would like to block off.
do we maintain that as the town?
Maintain the footpath?
Yeah.
The I would think the footpath would be up to volunteers.
Well, no, I'm saying currently, we don't maintain it like we do the rest of the trails.
No, you don't.
The trail, part of the trail just goes right by it, where you could get just a couple of feet off the trail. But they're talking about making a foot trail around the whole thing. Where would you be locating this little dock area?
You can actually see the pink flagging we put up there if you go out there, but if you could imagine that the current embankment is here, we're moving over, 30 or 40 feet and running a path out to the bank, to the edge of the pool, and then putting the boardwalk and the platform out from there. And I would like to maybe even get town help a little bit in trying to close off that embankment, because it's causes erosion, it's unsafe, there's a whole bunch of reasons why the current embankment needs to go. I pulled asphalt out from the vernal pool, they had come down it, and my idea was just a berm, and then get the fourth graders and some material, and get the fourth graders to be vegetated with native plants they can dig up from nearby.
Never did. Can you explain more on the liability?
Yeah.
I think that you maintain trails, and there's a liability wherever you have them, that this isn't going to increase your liability, I don't believe, more than you already have the number of exposed miles of stuff that you have out there. There are no bog walk, in many areas have boardwalks that go out over areas. Some times of the year, there's not 4 feet, there's not going to be hardly anything. That's why vernal pools are what they are. They go up and down, so there'll be limited area for that. Does that mean that something couldn't happen? No, but something could happen on any of your trails at any time.
But right now, the vernal pool is not part of the Mars Lane Trail, is that what we're saying?
It's adjacent to it.
Adjacent to it, but it's not.
It's on town property,
It's
though.
town property still, okay.
Well, I think it's great. Any type of educational thing is great. All I worry about is the liability. It sounds like we have no more liability than we would have before. So, what are we looking to do here?
I got one more question, Manager. So you're talking $3,500? Your
Yes,
project?
that's what I'm requesting from grants.
And the kids are going to do the work, or
Well, it'll be a mix. So when we
so your
actually, yeah.
But you're saying the high school kids would, if the material's bought, would be able to do the project as part of.
They'll be assembling the units, and then it's going to be my job to round up more volunteers in late summer after all the vernal pool's basically dried up, to get some volunteers to actually put it in
But
place.
if you had that money now, that's something they could work on this year as a project for kids.
I'm really hoping. He's got an advanced woodworking class second semester starting at the end of January. I'm really hoping I can get permission and get a grant in place by then.
So you're in the process of applying for a grant. You're not asking the town for any money.
I haven't yet.
Tonight you're not.
Yeah. I was hoping for a little assistance, though, possibly next summer, moving some materials, possibly. So I don't know who I would talk to about
Moving
that.
stuff around.
Moving
We
stuff
can
around.
move stuff around.
I guess where I was going with that, Mr. Key,
You
is
get a volunteer.
I would want to make a motion to grant that money to the trust for those kids to get this project off the ground. We don't know if she can get grants. For me, I mean, I don't have any kids in the system, but for me, it's for the kids, it's for the community. That's a real inexpensive project for fourth graders and high school age kids. That's just the way I see it.
I think what we're asking for here is just for the approval of the concept, right?
Yes.
Them to
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
So you had some clarification to this?
Yes, I would love somebody to help me out with this.
So Great Pond Mountain Conservation Trust is here tonight to seek your permission to apply for a permit. This is a land use, it's regulated by our land use ordinance, and whenever the applicant is not the property owner has to give permission for the applicant to get the permit. So that's why they're here tonight.
Okay. All right.
We still have to issue a permit. That's a permit subject to level 1 review, which is a review I would conduct. And I certainly will be looking at the safety issues that you raised about walking out on that ramp over the water.
I also have a letter from DEP saying that this is a non-consequential, it's a man-made pond, so there are no environmental issues around doing this. So
Make a motion to send this to,
there's a resolve later
Oh.
down to give them permission to.
okay, thanks.
This is the explanation portion of
All
it.
right.
Okay. Well, like I normally do, is there any comments from the public on this? Anything further from the council? Okay,
it's a great
thank you.
initiative.
We'll be acting on it further down in the agenda.
Okay, and can I make one more request? There was something that came up at the planning board the other night about parking spots for another property that we are doing a trail on that belongs to Great Pond Mountain Conservation Trust. And the planning board told us we had to ask your permission for these parking spots. Do you want to hear about that now, or another
No.
meeting, or what?
Get a hold of the town manager and we'll put it on the next agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, item E, Richard Gaynor property foreclosure and request to advertise for sales. Susan.
Okay, we have an unoccupied mobile home located on land at 82 Elm Street, not owned by Mr. Gaynor, who owned the mobile home, that is in foreclosure for unpaid sewer, and in another week will be in foreclosure for unpaid property taxes. But Mr. Gaynor, we've used all of our contact options to try and gain compliance in the payment of the outstanding amounts, and he has made no response. The people who own the property where the trailer sits, the town is now the owner because of the foreclosure of the sewer mains, want to sell the property, but they don't want our mobile home on it. And what I'm asking council permission to do is to put this mobile home out for public sale with the requirement that it be removed from this lot to avoid the town incurring, or hopefully to avoid the town incurring demolition costs to remove it from the property. And there's a resolve further down, but that's the explanation of what this
Is this trailer of a sufficient age so that it can be moved?
Yes,
I think
it was inspected by our code officer and our assessor, and while it's not in tremendous shape, it's got the pieces that could make it go somewhere still attached.
All right. And there's a resolve further down on this
There's a
one, too?
resolve further
Okay.
down.
You said it wasn't occupied?
It is not
It is
occupied.
not occupied, okay.
Okay, item F is cruiser replacement. Request to use police equipment reserve account.
Okay, there's a memo in your packet from Chief Gagan in regard to the police cruiser that's the 2010 cruiser, which is the oldest one we have, and which has encountered problems with the dash and the heating system, and the costs to repair that are more than the current value of the vehicle. And the town has traditionally had 4 vehicles in rotation in its police department. The day frontline cruiser, the cruiser that's primarily used at night, that being number 2. The third one, which is the sergeant cruiser, which is an on-call, because the chief and the sergeant split the week in terms of on-call, who's on-call for call-in with those 2 vehicles. And they have rotated 4. And in reviewing our use of these vehicles, are looking to rotate 3. What is happening is we've changed it to an every 2 years replacement on cruisers. So by the time the last one is out there, it's got a lot of miles and it's costing more than the vehicle is worth to keep it on the road. So going to a 3, which is would be the frontline day, the night, and the sergeant, and move the chief vehicle, which is also an on-call vehicle, out of that rotation, and instead replace this 2010 with a used vehicle that would be dedicated to that use and moved out of the rotation, looking at used acquisition for those on a 3 or 4 year basis, as opposed to the every 2 years that the other cars rotate. And to allow that to happen and not put more money into this 2010 that's not going to get us anything out of it other than more repairs, is to utilize $17,500 now, but I had asked for up to $18,000 to purchase a used vehicle for a 3 or 4 year life for that chief's, and to only rotate the other 3 vehicles, so that steps out of that and is more in line with the usage patterns that we have for this, and would reduce the cost of that because we've moved that one out, and would be using a used vehicle as opposed to a new one. The chief is the one who's done the research on a vehicle that's available and is here to address that if that's appropriate, but that's the basis of what that's here for, and it's here now because we're facing another costly repair to a vehicle that's you're going to put more into.
Question I have, Chief. So you have your day vehicle, your night vehicle, a vehicle that you share on call with David?
No, we have 4. David has an on-call vehicle that is actually rotated into the fleet if need be. If one goes down, his goes up into the fleet, but when he's on call, he has that vehicle. And then we have a 4th vehicle that I use for on-call basis.
So we're looking to pull, is that car you had the other day that didn't have a dashboard in it?
Yes.
That I saw?
Yes.
That car
Yes,
that
you
didn't
did.
have the dashboard?
Yeah, it didn't have the dashboard in it.
That's the
Correct.
car we're talking about getting rid of?
Exactly, yeah. And in the memo, I did put in there, I tried to have that fixed. That did not work. I've got a price to get a new one, and for just the town mechanic to buy the new one with no labor to put that in is close to $1,000.
So that, just so I can get, that car there is a 2010?
Correct.
In the way things are done now, that would be up for a new vehicle this
In
year?
July, yep.
And what you're saying is, are you going to ask for another new vehicle in July?
Correct, yes, but we would trade David's car in, which has 134,000 miles on it. the cruiser that we're talking about trading in now has 109,000 miles on it. The reason for that is those two vehicles are so close because we had a crash during those years and we got another vehicle. But so the idea would be to trade David's in July and keep the rotation going, but take that last cruiser out of the rotation and keep it for up to 3 years and keep it out and just rotate 3 cruisers so the mileage would go down and the trade-in value would go up, hopefully.
And
what's the
overall number difference? What do you see as a purchase number difference? Are we gaining, saving, spending more?
I could say that the 2010 right now is worth about $2,500, and we're looking to put that into it, if not more, and then trade it in July. Whereas a new cruiser right now is going to be around $29,000 to purchase.
And the reason I'm at, so you've got a day cruiser. It's one of the SUVs, correct?
Yes.
The night cruiser is another SUV,
Yes.
correct?
And then we have 2 Crown Vics.
And then we have 2
cars.
Crown Vics.
Right.
The Crown Vic that David has now that
Yeah.
you're going to get a new one for the start, is that going to be another Crown Vic or will that be an SUV
My
What do you-
goal is to have another SUV.
for David to use as a new
No,
car?
what happens here is in July, if David's car was traded in, David gets the second in line, comes down to that third one, which he takes. We always take the oldest cars because we're not out on the road 24/7.
That's the question I want to make sure got answered.
Yes.
New
So,
one goes to the top of
I wanted to
line.
make sure that was understood.
yeah, the new one,
Goes
the
to
new
the
one
front line,
always
yeah.
goes to the lead cruiser.
That's why I want to make sure it was
Absolutely,
understood.
yeah. The one that's on the road 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 24/7 is the lead car, yes, absolutely.
How many miles a year do we put on those typically?
Well, we go every 2 years, so right now, for instance, that lead cruiser that's going to be going into the second line cruiser as of today, this evening, has 62,290 miles on it.
After 2 years.
Yes. So that's going to go into the second car. The 213 that David's will get has 116,000 miles on it.
Is there,
And what that has to do with is, we used to do this every year, and we may have skipped a year, you may know, Davey, way back, when times were tough, we skipped a few years, it might have gone 3, I'm not sure if it was in this rotation or not. But when we did that, then we went to a 2-year rotation, so miles are going up. The issues with the car I'm driving right now, it is the dashboard, it's the heating system. That heating system is close to $700 for the box. The mechanic would put it in at no labor, but right now it's being held open by a paint stick, just because I didn't want to fix it and throw that kind of money into it. But the other issue with the third and the fourth cruiser, we call it, are the rust issues. I did put some money at the end of 2 years ago into them so that they would last up until this point. And I've noticed on David's cruiser, a little bit on mine, but more on David's cruiser, which would go down to the fourth cruiser in a year, that the rust is starting to eat through that already. So, and that's got 134,000 miles on it. So,
are there any fit-out costs for the one you're going to purchase? Do you have to put anything in it?
I would take everything out of the 2010
Just radios
and have the mechanical.
primarily.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I was just going to give you, do you have 5 cars right now?
No, we have 4. We'd stay at 4, but we'd have 3 in the main rotation
Okay.
of the 2.
And the fourth one is the one you're driving right
Right.
now? Okay.
And I have the ACO vehicles. So technically, I have 5 in the fleet. But.
Can't we just buy you another jacket? So you.
You could.
I'm just kidding.
You could.
So in July, you're gonna have a car with 119,000 miles on it?
Say that again now.
In July.
In July,
Well, probably more, because
Well-
it's got 119 now. So in
it's got
July,
100.
when-
David would. The third car, which is the second SUV right now, has 116, almost 117,000
So in
miles on it.
July, that's probably.
That will go to the
120,
detective
25.
calling car for him, so that's got 117. So the issue with this is that with that vehicle, going into the four, if we kept it and went to the 4-car rotation, by the time it gets down there, it's gonna have 130, 140,000 miles on it. Whereas now, it could have the 125 or so and trade it in, and not keep it another 2 years after that till you trade it in again.
You know, probably blasphemy, but if you had a Honda, you'd be all set. You could drive that for 200, 300,000.
Now,
Not true, not true.
And
They
it's
actually
not
broke in.
really, I want to say this too, it's not as much the mileage on the vehicles, because I have the maintenance records here, and they're very, very well kept. But these are on the road, some of them 24/7, for 4 years straight. I mean, it's not like a POV that you take to work and back. These things run steady for 4 years straight, and then they go and they sit for a little bit. And what we found on the on-call basis thing is that we used to come in, get the vehicle and all the gear, rather than just go to the scene. And when we left those sitting at the PD, it did them absolutely no good. And we had to start putting money into them in batteries and things of that nature, and it didn't make sense at all. So it's not a lack of maintenance, because the maintenance records are all up to date. The oil changes are every 3,000 to 5,000. They're done. So a little bit of the issue right now is rust. I can tell you that, and I had them taken care of and put a little bit of money into each one a few years back, and it's already seeping through. So
how are we for funding in that police reserve account?
It's currently approximately $33,000 in that reserve account, which if you used 18 and in your next year's budget, this past year we added 25,000. If you did what you normally do, which is add that much every year, you'd still be fine for the purchase in July, without increasing the amount that you have to put in your reserve.
Any comments from the public on this? Any further from the council? Go over here first.
Paul wanted to say something too. Go ahead.
Price out a new one?
yes. Yeah, and when I met with the town manager, we did discuss the possibility of buying 2 new ones and rotating the 2 we've got down now into the rotation, then going to a 3-car rotation. But you're talking $60,000, $70,000 time you're done, and I was not going to bring that here tonight at all.
What age car are you going to be looking for?
A 2013, just like the second one right now. Probably have 60,000, 70,000 miles on it, but I average them in call-ins and travel probably 5,000 to 8,000 miles a year.
Yes, sir.
Number one, I followed where the cars go, and at the end of all that, I got it.
Okay.
My personal feeling is to buy a car where one's coming up in July. I think it would be better to go new right at this time and spend the extra $10,000, $12,000 instead of buying. I always feel that if you buy used, you're buying somebody else's trouble, and you're picking up a vehicle with 63,000 miles on it. So if you're looking at going into July to get a new cruiser, and we need one now, why wait and spend the extra money? But my real plan, and what I'd like to throw out on the table, I won't call it a plan, but what I'd like to throw out is, if a cruiser's going to cost $28,000, $29,000, and then you have to do all the stuff, put the decals on, the radios, the computer, all the necessary stuff in it. I assume we do all that, but why not go into a leasing program? And I don't know what Maine State Police currently does for leasing. I don't know what Hancock County does or doesn't do. Maine Municipal Association may be able to recommend a leasing company. I know there is Ford Municipal Leasing. They have 2 operations out of Bangor, one being Darling and the other being the big truck guy up there, Whiting, is that the name?
Whiting.
And then there's one down in Rockland, and I can't forget the other, but Ford has a dedicated municipal leasing organization. And I know in Massachusetts, MHQ has contracts with the Massachusetts State Police, and they have an office in Connecticut and do contracts with the Connecticut State Police. just from ballpark numbers, and I don't know what a lease would run, but for example, I would think a $29,000 vehicle would be in the $300 to $350 a month lease range over 3 years. So 12 months, you're looking at about, let's call it $4,000 a year for a leased vehicle. For that $18,000, I think you could replace 2 or 3 cruisers on a leased vehicle right now.
I wrote down lease
Do you
on.
realize how many miles?
Yeah,
you
the
put on?
mileage piece is what's.
Okay, I mean, I'm gonna give you a for instance, I mean, the mileage that they're putting on is ungodly.
Well, I'm not saying you lease it for a year, I'm saying lease it out for 3-4 years.
I'm still, you're gonna give back 100,000-mile car.
That's what they do, Paul. They lease police cruisers, they lease fire trucks, they lease
I
dump
know of
trucks.
0 in the state of Maine that do. State police don't lease their vehicles, they buy them. We bought 3 this year. Bangor buys them, Hancock County, Penobscot buys them. I agree with the new vehicle thing.
I'm just saying that we should I would like to investigate
Yeah, Paul, I actually wrote down
Ford
the
municipal
questions
leasing.
on leasing as well, but I
Reach
just
out to
thought
these
that-
MHQ guys. You know, they've got contracts with.
It is certainly
NASA.
something I can look into throughout the state to see if anyone does it, and
Or
then
even if
find
we
out.
check out with Maine Municipal Association if there's any leasing.
I mean, it's worth asking the question.
I just think that we could get a couple new
Yeah.
cruisers on the road and keep our money under control.
You may be correct, I don't know, but you may be correct. I will say that as far as the new purchase now, we did discuss that. I'm not sure that it's feasible for us with the money that we have right now. And looking at the vehicle for the 4th vehicle and the miles that I put on, even when I patrol, is not a third of the mileage that the guys do because they're out there doing it 24/7, so.
I mean, these leasing companies, they expect to get cars back with that kind of mileage, especially if they're,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen these places when I lived in Massachusetts. They have them by the row out there with the LED spotlights already mounted, their interceptors, they're ready
Yeah.
to go
MHQ
on
does
the
that
lot.
in Massachusetts, they have lines of them, yeah.
Yeah, they're doing contracts. I
Do
think
they
it's-
lease those through MHQ?
Hmm?
I mean, I'll be with them in February, so,
They claim they have sale, I looked online today, they
and I
claim
can
they
check
can do
in
sales
February,
and
'cause
lease.
I'll be with them, so, yeah.
And then, of course, they outfit, but they have a range of contracts.
Well, it's easy enough to look into it.
So what are we going to do in the meantime here? While you're looking into this, you've got a vehicle that doesn't have a heater.
Well,
We've got to resolve, I think.
You gotta resolve, I mean,
I think we go forward.
I
with this
understand what
resolve.
Mr. Rabs is saying, but I presented this in the best interest of the town. I don't know that it's in the best interest to buy 2 cruisers right now. You're not gonna be able to find and look into a lease right now, or maybe in July, we can look at leasing the new car to see how that goes.
And I agree with your thought process. We need a car now. And you know what, I think after I read through the packet and what the work you've done and so forth, and when the resolve comes up, I'm telling you right now, I'll go for that cruiser so you can get it. But I think cruisers down the road, we should take a look at leasing, just like the town manager has been very creative on the new dump truck that's being created. She's been creative on the new loader that's coming in. I think it's for the town to look at lease. In the private sector, I had a leased vehicle 35 out of the 40 years that I was on the road. It was Peterson, Howell, and Heather, and then moved to GE Capital. And like I said, I went online today, and
Yeah.
Ford Municipal Leasing is out there, another. So, just my 2 cents.
And I just, so you know, the vehicle that you have in your packet is a step up and a step down. A cruiser is built different than the one that I looked at, and vinyl floors, this one doesn't have the vinyl floors, so on and so forth. So this is not a police interceptor cruiser more than it's the same vehicle at a kind of a lower level type thing. Motor might be a little different, wheels a little bit different, things of that nature. So I want to put that out there before you vote.
The town mechanic went to look at this vehicle prior to,
Yeah, we went down today.
to see if there was any items that he saw that might be problematic in this. And the discussion about new versus used in terms of this particular vehicle I agreed to bring the used forward because the nature of this vehicle and the use of it by the chief is different than the frontline vehicles that we're dealing with. And my hope is that to push into the frontline vehicles a way for them to move through this rotation more quickly, so we don't end up with vehicles that have no, whether it's through lease or through purchase, don't have vehicles with 119 or 20 or 30,000 miles that are costing us one arm and one leg to keep on the road. And to separate out from that the vehicle that has a slightly different use than the other ones. And that's why this is put forward here, because it is important that that other vehicle that's got the rust and got the issues be replaced in the next budget year. And whether that's through lease, and we can certainly look, there's certainly sufficient time between now and when we do the budget to examine whether or not there are leasing options available in Maine for police cruisers, and to bring that forward if it's possible. So,
Is the rust issue because they're on the road all the time?
Basically,
It
I
seems
mean,
like
they run-
nowadays cars don't rust.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
used
they
to.
run
At least
steady.
I have a Honda with 190,000 miles on it. There's not a bit
Yeah,
of
and
rust
a lot of these, they're only parked in a garage for the 2 to 4 years, and then they'll sit outside, and you're right. You can never compare one of these cruisers to a personal-owned vehicle, because they go steady.
That's what makes sense.
I mean, in storms and stuff, no pun intended, when people are home sleeping, these things are out running the roads. I mean, so.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Sir.
Okay, we're going to go on to item 8, which is the agenda items. First one being to adopt Resolve 2017-35 to set the mileage reimbursement rate beginning in 2017 as the annual rate defined by the IRS. How would the council like to proceed?
So moved.
Second.
We have motion and seconded to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item B, to adopt resolve 2017-36 to approve the project adjacent to Miles Lane Trail proposed by the Great Pond Mountain Conservation Trust. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion approved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item C, to approve resolve R 2017-37 to put out for public sale a foreclosed mobile home located on map 33, lot 20. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item D, to approve resolve 2017-38 to allow the expenditure up to $18,000 for police equipment reserve account for a police cruiser. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item 9, resignations, appointments, and assignments. Is this where we're going to put? No, committee meetings later. There's nothing on that, is there?
no.
Item 10, approve quick claim discharge of a deed to Brian Manning, real estate quick claim, map 22, lot 22. Susan.
Yes, this is a quick claim deed that, for the payment of property taxes, so it just needs to be voted on.
Motion to
by
approve.
Second.
council.
We have a motion and a second to approve the quick claim deed for Brian Manning, map 22, lot 22. Anything from the public on this? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item 11, town manager's report from the department heads.
Yeah, the department head reports are included, and there was one separate one, which was the fire chief's report, which came in a little time after I posted that on your stuff as well. I want to remind everyone that we have the lights parade on Saturday night here in Bucksport at 5 o'clock. I think we have a number of floats and the requisite other equipment that goes with the parade. The Heart and Soul group is going to do cocoa and cookies at their building downtown, and I think there'll be some music. I think our economic development director has some more information on that. Our fire chief coordinated the final submissions on the Safety Works program through the Department of Labor, which should get us the safer designation as a community, and which helps, again, to keep our insurance rates down, but also keeps us from being subject to the anytime inspection through the Department of Labor process, as long as we keep our record keeping and our safety record up to date. And the really exciting news is that Zero started in Bucksport today. The compactor's there. Jim Dunning was at the site from Casella to sort of talk to people about how it works and how things done. We will be sending out a mailing to people to help people get introduced to this new system and the fact that you can now dispose of glass and all manner of plastics and things that you couldn't before under our existing system, all in one container. And that's it.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had a meeting today with DEP and AIM in regard to an application that had been made for disposal of some things at the landfill some time ago, and AIM withdrew their permit request for that disposal, and DEP came today to talk about what the future might look like in terms of that landfill and what the town's interests were in that, and the discussion was that it was an accessory use to an industrial site, and that the current very restrictive license that's on that landfill was where the town wished that to stay at this time. So we see no changes in the operation of the landfill or how that works. Sorry, that's it.
All right. Okay. Set public hearings. We have got to have a public hearing on an introduction of an ordinance, and I don't believe we have another meeting this month, so it would have to be the first meeting in
There's one
January.
on the 29th, right?
Oh, we do have one on the
29th.
29th. Okay.
Yes.
Not the 22nd, 29th.
Okay, the 29th.
The last.
So we'll introduce that ordinance on the 29th? We have to have a motion for that, or?
Yes, we have to.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we set an ordinance for a public hearing for an ordinance to repeal and replace Chapter 6 of the Business Licensing and Regulations.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and seconded to set the public hearing for the 29th. Anything further from the public, from the council?
I know you talked about it being a $5 fee. Is it still possible to go to a zero?
No.
Or not at all?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor? Motion passes. We have no licenses to approve, do we? Okay, we'll go on to item 13, discussion items not on the agenda for the council, the public. We'll open it up to the public first. Any discussion items from the public?
Yes, sir. Good evening. I just wanted to give a brief update of what will be going on in town for the remainder of the next couple of weeks. As the town manager said, this Saturday, December 10th, the Parade of Lights will begin at 5 p.m. It'll start down at the AIM parking lot, and it'll travel and end at the town office. Anyone on TV or in the audience who would like to put a float in the parade, please contact Chris Grindle. It is free admission with prizes for the top 3 designed floats. Afterwards, please head over to the Heart and Soul building for free cookies, cocoa, popcorn, and live music. Santa will be arriving by fire truck and will also be at the Heart and Soul building as well. Sunday, December 11th, scheduled for 11:15 in the morning, but may arrive between 11 and noon. The convoy for the wreaths across America will pass through the traffic light with a momentary stop for wreath exchange. More info is on the Town of Bucksport Facebook page. Friday, December 16th, Main Street Bucksport's holiday cocktail party. Tickets are $25 and include food, drink, and music. Please contact the group at mainstreetbucksport@gmail.com. Lastly, Sunday, December 18th, free gift wrapping by volunteers at the Heart and Soul Building, 72 Main Street, with holiday music, cookies, and cocoa. Bring your gifts and let them take care of the wrapping. That's all sponsored by Main Street Bucksport.
Thank you. Any other discussion items from the public? We had a young lady back there, had her hand up.
We were just having a discussion about this. Julie Hurst, Silver Lake. What do we have to do to get the yield sign on School Street changed to a stop sign? Because when people come up School Street and they go up around onto Silver Lake, they don't yield. So if you're coming down Silver Lake and they're coming up around that corner, there's a lot of close
You're
calls.
talking about going up the hill.
I believe that's got to be brought to the council, and it goes to the Streets and Roads Committee. Is that right? So,
When we get to setting committees here in a minute, we could...
okay.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm reminding you what Joel Wardwell said, that you passed a $13 million budget and you have 3 people and we're going to change one stop sign and you have to hold a meeting in the gymnasium, so hopefully that won't happen here.
Mr. Johnson, you had your hand up? Well, we're doing the public first.
Okay. Sorry, Joe.
No,
Come right up. I had not planned to, I didn't realize Ms. Tozier was going to be here tonight. But since I saw she was here, I wanted to bring her up as well for what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, everybody has stolen my thunder here. But I just wanted to make sure we acknowledge what Ms. Tozier is doing with the Bucksport Heart and Soul, and she's a true leader. We're real excited about having her with our group and along with many of her classmates. But I would just like to say good evening. My name is Chris Johnson. I'm here to provide you with another positive update about the Bucksport Heart and Soul program. Nancy Minot, our new director or coordinator, regrets she's not able to attend the meeting tonight because of previous family commitments and sends her regards. Ms. Minot officially assumed the coordinator position on November 18th and has been working long hours and days learning the intricacies of the program as well as expanding the opportunities. To say she has hit the ground running is an understatement, but tonight I'm happy to report our success with the beginning of training and integration of RSU 25 students into the Heart and Soul program. And from what you've already been told tonight about the planned parade, you should be watching for 2 vehicles decorated by the Heart and Soul youth team in the Parade of Lights at 5 p.m. Saturday night. After the parade, the Heart and Soul youth team invites you to join them at the Light the Night event at the Heart and Soul headquarters, which we talked about earlier, for the hot cocoa, cookies, and popcorn. And this young lady has been extremely instrumental in coordinating that and has done terrific work with the Heart and Soul team. We're excited about, we have a core group of around 10, correct, would you say?
Yeah, 10 to 12.
Of all grades, from 9th grade up through to, right now, we've got the high school, and we'll be looking at some of the younger groups as well. She's a true leader, and she's been working very hard, helping coordinate, sending emails out, doing group, and making sure people are where they need to be and making sure they're doing their job. So perhaps folks will come and tell us their stories that evening after the parade, and the youth team will be ready and trained to take those stories. Finally, we'd like to express our appreciation for the ongoing guidance and advice from Bucksport's Economic Development Director, Rich Rotella. He's made the transition of the heart and soul responsibilities very orderly and very efficient. Rich is always just a phone call away. His ever-increasing success speaks well of Bucksport's future, and we look forward to continuing to welcome him as an integral part of the heart and soul team. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
young lady.
waiting.
Okay, any other discussion items from the public?
I won't take long. As Rich mentioned, the Wreaths Across America is on Sunday. Myself and Sergeant Winchester have received an invitation from the Sheriff of Hancock County to participate in the event down in Ellsworth. This year, unfortunately, it isn't a long stop in Bucksport, but it will be a wreath ceremony, a short one passing through Bucksport. We'll be involved in that, and we are not going all the way to Arlington, but we will be participating in that. Probably just to Belfast. He may want to go to Portland, but we'll see where we end up with that, and that is just an amazing, amazing thing that goes on. So Bucksport will be well represented in that. Secondly, the discussion on the pond tonight on the Miles Lane trails. I know that was approved, but I would like, safety-wise, I would like to see the town set some restrictions on that as the use of that and when you use it, how you use it. What I'm getting at is life jackets when you're out on that, and I have no problem in spearheading and heading up that program to have life jackets at that location, and if the town is willing to put that as a stipulation, then I will take care of the life jackets.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussions item from the public? Mr. York.
If we do have a committee for the streets and roads for the yield to stop sign, I was wondering if we could maybe have one also for the streets and roads about the maintenance of the roads and some other options and ideas for that. I don't know if I can get more in depth with you if you want me to talk to you first about it, Susan, or if...
Well, if we set up streets and roads, that's a topic.
Just have it on your agenda.
We'll just have it on the agenda.
I appreciate it.
If there's any particular information or background information you want provided for it, you just need to give me what it is you want. Yep.
All right, fantastic.
We're going to set the date for that pretty soon, so think about the date. Any other discussion items? Yes, sir.
Yep. I just want to, the last Economic Development Committee meeting, a couple times this has come up by participants about concern on the dams, water levels through Bucksport, Orland, and so forth. So tonight, the fact that Mr. McGlynn from AIM came in and gave us, this will go a long way, and I'll make sure we get a copy into the hands of people in economic development that have expressed a lot of concern. One thing that did come out was presented to us at that last meeting is there is an emergency action plan in place for Silver Lake Dam that has been presented to Hancock County and notarized and signed off, and local agreement signatures include Orland Fire, Bucksport Police, Maine State Police, Hancock County Regional, Hancock County EMS, and on in here. So for people that have expressed concern about the dams, the water supply, the emergency action plan is in place, plus what was presented by AIM this evening. And an interesting piece that was presented at the last Economic Development Committee meeting was a fellow, Roger Farrell, came in, who lives over in Prospect now, but down in South Carolina they have put a business generator incubator together down there, and what they've done in this incubator that they've pretty well documented, and it's just an idea that was thrown out that might serve us as we go along, that they got a hold of a building in the town down in South Carolina. I forget the name of the town, Rich. Gaffney, South Carolina. And what they did is they went out and they got themselves a rather substantial grant and redid. The building was given to them to use. They went and got a $75,000 or $90,000 grant. It became an open working environment, that 24 hours a day they had a dedicated room for new businesses, that they could have a conference room but have access to internet and phone service and things like that. And what they charged was $150 per month per new business for the first year, and then moved to $250 per month for the second year. And then after that, they said, hey, you're established now, it's time to move on and let someone come in and take your place. So it was a pretty interesting concept that was presented, and anyway, I just wanted to make your way to some creative ideas. And now this fellow has moved up, and I think he's going to go look for some grant money, will be his next effort. Did I misspeak about anything?
Nope, we have a meeting tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock with his next steps.
So, okay.
Any other discussion items from the council?
Thank you.
If not, we're going to go on to basically set committee meetings. We have to set a date for the Solid Waste Committee to discuss solid waste transport. Are you the chairman? Yeah.
I am, yes.
Is there a time frame on that? Needs to be.
Well, not necessarily, but in reviewing how we do everything we do, there's been a discussion that it may be possible for our own public works personnel to haul our waste trailers, and that could have some efficiencies in terms of when things go in and saving some money. And so Public Works has put together some information on that and would like the committee to look it over and think about it. So if we were going to implement possibly for the next fiscal year, that this would be something that we could.
Do they have a truck at the house?
We don't right this minute, but the difference in the trailers are there. It's the tractor that isn't, and a new one isn't necessary. But what we're expending for that, a used one with our own personnel who come and go at will may save us money within a very short time.
And the contract with Eastman, how long is that? Is that
through next year?
Okay, sure.
You've got solid waste, but you also have streets and roads. You want to try to do that on the same night?
I would, yeah.
Just give us a date.
Do you want to do it on the 29th before at 5:30 for one and 6 o'clock for the other one? Is that?
That'd be super. If we can wait till then, that'd be great.
Okay. We also have a ordinance committee. We have the public hearing on ordinance, but we got another one, moratorium. That has to go to the ordinance committee, right?
Yeah.
Peter?
How long is that going to take, Susan?
However long it takes you the committee to decide if you're going to recommend to the council whether to do.
Let's do it at 6:30 that night.
6:30. Okay.
That night.
So we've got 5:30 is solid waste, 6 is streets and roads, 6:30 ordinance.
Who's bringing pizza?
Okay. We have one other thing here before adjournment. It's a refer to property acquisition of land and building next to the Subway Dollar Store development to Economic Development Committee. This is a request to send it to the Economic Development Committee, and this request has been submitted by Steve St. Peter.
Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen St. Peter. I'm a longtime resident, and I think it's a great time to start putting brand new buildings next to Family Dollar, because everything's starting to really flow, and I'd love to see brand new development there. Those buildings are falling apart. Every day you see something fall off the roofs, and I'd love to see those buildings gone eventually, and I'd like to see the land itself